Hey, good people. Grits or cream of wheat? Who the hell is racist? Does anyone ever ask if they touch your hair?
Black Like Me.
You're listening to Black Like Me with Dr. Alex G., a podcast that invites you to experience the world through the perspective of one black man, one conversation, one story, or even one rant at a time. Here's Dr. G.
Black Like Me.
Hey, good people. Hey, I want to let you know that we are at the end of season 3. I can't believe that we have 3 seasons under our belt. We have about 80 episodes, slightly more than 80 episodes that are up, and they are all incredible. And so let me just recap with just a few things. A couple things I want you to do between the time that we're off. One, keep in mind that we need more Patreon supporters. We've tweaked our levels so that really anyone could come in and be part of our Patreon family, to be one of our supporters. And we are already working on special content just for Patreon listeners. And there are going to be some exciting updates for season 4 that will get to you. So please take a moment, click that link, go and support us. You can do it. And we know you want to. Just take a moment while we're off to do it. Secondly, share the episodes. You know, what I find that what my team does is, let's say something happens in the news that relates really well to an episode that we had, repost that episode, put a link up and say, you know what, this was discussed on Black Like Me. Or if you want to understand this better, listen to this discussion with Robin DiAngelo or with Dr. Christy Clark-Pajara or Dr. Alex G. So please share it with your friends within your network, because this is really has become a resource for non-Black people who want to understand race relations. 3, take some time to catch up on podcasts. You know, when we first started this, I asked my team, can we provide weekly content? And now, you know, like we're already recording into season 4. So we have so much material. So take a moment to catch up. If you just joined us in season 3, you really want to understand season 1 and 2, because some of what we talk about will build upon that. So please listen to previous seasons and again, share those. Subscribe. Now, this is important. Subscribing is different than being a Patreon supporter. Subscribing is just saying to us, hey, we are part of your regular listenership. And that means whenever we release anything that's special during the middle of the week, it goes to you automatically. It's already there. When you travel, the episodes are already sent to your account. So please take a moment to do that. You do that right inside the podcast. And if you don't know how to find that, go to alexg.com. And you can subscribe there. But in iTunes, wherever it is you listen, just hit subscribe. And the last thing is, take a little time to go to alexg.com. That's my name.com. Because what you'll find out is the podcast is really just one part of my life. But I run 2 nonprofits. One is Fountain of Life Church, that's doing some tremendous things in the community, including taking care of some of the very temporal needs of the financially strapped in our community. So take a look at that, because you might want to find out how you might support some of the work that we do. And I have an organization that's called the Nehemiah Center for Urban Leadership Development, with a powerful initiative called Justified Anger. If you're not on those mailing lists and you don't know the things that we're doing to really heal the racial divide in our community, you're really missing out. You'll also see my tweets there. I'm also beginning to blog more. So you'll see other material that's really outside of the realm of my podcast, but you'll get a greater sense of what I'm communicating and talking about. Go to alexg.com. And if you scroll down, there's a place where you can subscribe free of charge to alexg.com, which means anytime I post a new blog, a G-ism, those are my pithy, wise sayings. Whenever I post those, you get a weekly link letting you know all my new content. So please do those things. Now, this is really cool. I'm a techie. I almost jumped out of my seat when Tyler told me this. Do you understand that Apple Podcasts can now launch my Black Like Me podcast through Alexa and Siri? So I think that is exciting. So Apple Podcasts is now available on Alexa-enabled Amazon devices in the U.S. And so this is really crazy. So you'll find even greater opportunities to listen to our show. So, for example, if you say, Alexa, play Black Like Me on Apple Podcasts, Alexa will go find it, jump down and play it for you. And if so, you can tell it a number of things. Alexa, play Black Like Me from yesterday. Alexa, skip ahead 30 seconds. Alexa, play the previous episode. Alexa is not part of our team. Alexa works for us. Alexa is now part of the Black Like Me podcast family. But not to be outdone, Siri also does it. I'm an Apple guy, so I think Siri did it first. If you say, let's just say you're so busy, you don't have time to really subscribe. All you have to do is say, Siri, find Black Like Me podcast. Siri, play Black Like Me podcast. Siri, we like to call her La Siri because we want to blacken her up a little bit. So La Siri will go find my podcast and play it on your device. Come on, tell your friends about this. Listen, if you got people that have not subscribed, pick up their phones and you make Siri work. I think that's really great. Hey, couple of things. Let me just let you know, just the highlight for me of this series, thinking back on the key themes, was the use of the N-word. I think that just keeps coming up. So the episode started with Harry Hawkins' children, Kay and Harry Jr. There's an episode that just played a little bit ago about Noah and Marlon Anderson. They both made national news when he, as a security guard, was fired from West High School in Madison for repeating the N-word because a kid was calling him that. And he was saying, don't be calling me that. Cher actually posted on Facebook that she will pay his legal costs if he wanted to sue the school board. So he and his son were in the studios recently. Listen to that. And there's also a bonus track that you'll find where I just did a bit of a rant of someone just continually dragging me into conversations about why their use of the N-word in front of me was not racist. And so it just keeps coming up, folks. So that's an important theme. We did a history of Madison. We had great influencers. It was called the Our Madison series. That was very powerful. One of the most poignant quotes was from Dr. Richard Harris, who, as an 83-year-old, said he regrets having raised his 3 black children in Madison. Patreon, we redirected it. I mentioned this to you earlier, but we talked about how this helps us to continue going, and it's going to point to exciting things that's happening. So that was an important theme. We had top scholars and influencers. We had Robin DiAngelo, the author of White Fragility, Eddie Moore Jr., the founder of the White Privilege Movement and the White Privilege Institute, Dr. Yusef Salaam, one of the exonerated 5, Dr. Gina Page, co-founder of AfricanAncestry.com, Ben Wickler, who is the chair of the Wisconsin Democratic Party, and then, of course, Marlon and Noah. We had folks who were top scholars or influencers or headliners this year. We talked a lot with and about black women. Reverend Laleda, my sister, was on the show. Marsha Anderson, the first female 2-star general in military history in the United States, was in my studio. Pia Kinney, the first African-American police officer in Madison, Wisconsin. My daughter, Lexi, who talked about the use of the N-word in her classroom as an undergraduate at the University of Wisconsin, and wrote a paper about it with a professor. But when it was time to process the paper on the podcast, as the professor had promised, the professor just bowed out and said, nope, don't want to do it. I'm too uncomfortable talking about that on a podcast. And then Dr. Christy Clark Pujara, noted tenured faculty member at the University of Wisconsin-Madison in the Department of Afro-American Studies. And she's also one of our lecturers at the Justified Anger U.S. Black History course. And of course, Ghana, Akwaaba. My trip to Ghana changed my life. And so that was a big thing, processing that with my sister, processing that alone. And in fact, just to send you off with a bit of Ghana, there are 2 poems that we're going to add to this podcast, 2 originals that I wrote. One is called Welcome Home, and the other is called Colonizer, Please. There's a third one, but you have to be a Patreon supporter to get that one. So Patreon folks, look in your inbox. You're going to have that third poem that's only released to you. Hey, listen, you all, in my tradition, Christmas is a very important time of the year. It's the time of the year that we focus on hope coming into the world, reconciling us to our Creator, reconciling us to each other, breaking down barriers so that we can live more harmoniously, so that we can really do good in the community together. New Year's signifies to us a new beginning. And so I just want to take a moment and personally wish you a very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, a prosperous New Year. I want to do that on behalf of my staff and my team. And for a lot of us, 2019 was tough. We say goodbye to dear people, dear things. And so I'm just hoping, I'm actually praying that 2020 will be a great year for us, a year for greater insight, unity, and togetherness. It does mean a lot to me, and I mean this sincerely, to have this place and this space with you. Many of you, through your messages on social media and through emails, have indicated how important this space is for you. But I need you to know that this space is important to me. It's a place that I can come and bring a lot of my frustrations, fears, and concerns. I don't have to take those to a bottle of brown liquor or out on family and coworkers who are very dear to me. I'm glad that I have a place where I can have voice and where that voice is validated and it's listened to. And more importantly, it has a ripple effect of perhaps causing a few of you to think differently about life, race relations, and community. So this has been a great season. The best is yet to come. Season 4 is going to be amazing. And so do all the things I suggested that you do in the meanwhile. Listen, subscribe, go to alexstreet.com, go to Patreon, do all that stuff. All right. Come on. Show me that this is really, really your hangout. Let's act like it. And we will see you in season 4. Colonizer, Please by Alexander G. Colonizer, please. Dear Colonizer, so now you're rewriting history again to say that we as Africans actually sold our own people into slavery? So now you're not to blame for the transatlantic slave trading? Colonizer, please. Of course we as Africans sold prisoners of war to you. We were not the first to do so. But what you fail to own is that once our ancestors realized the brutality of what you were doing, because America's system of slavery was unique in the world and based solely on race and was brutal and very sexually and economically violent and inescapable, we refused to continue doing business with you. And when we refused to supply you with free labor, you supplied our enemies with weapons to attack us, thus punishing the unwilling middleman. You then robbed his land, only after kidnapping his children, raping his women, and plundering his natural resources. And you have the audacity to call us savage. Colonizer, please. And to show the shamelessness of your commitment to your own God called greed and power, you rape and stole and beat and sold innocent people. You lied and brutalized in the name of my God of love. And you had the audacity to call us pagan. You had already proved that raping Africa's children, wives, mothers, and land was not beneath you. But even you stooped to a new low when you raped and manipulated the gospel and created, gave birth to, and nurtured bastard children called white privilege and American exceptionalism. Whore, please. Hypocrite, please. Colonizer, please. And now you just want to let bygones be bygones without meaningful conversation about real history, justice, or reparations? As if the past no longer matters, as if there's no connection between then and now. So let me get this straight. 400 years of systemic oppression has no relevance or detriment to today's economic and political status of African Americans. But 60 years of affirmative action has caused grown white men to cry in the streets. Blood and soil. We want our America back. Let's make America great again. Weak men, please. Scared men, please. Colonizers, please. Who hurt you, colonizer? Was it the crown in Europe? Was it the state church? The Pope? Is it the weight of self-imposed importance and worth? Was it the burden of the doctrine of discovery? I only ask because somebody must have hurt you really badly for you to have inflicted such pain on so many people. It must be hard to be you. And because you were broken, you thought you could or should break others, break us. After 400 years, you have discovered that the brokenness and weakness of your own soul was not commensurate to the power and resilience in ours. You talked about God. We talked to God, and vice versa. And as if now the playing field were truly even, as you suggest, and it's not, colonizer. It wouldn't have been because slavery didn't matter. It would have been because black lives and black excellence and black faith and black communities and black resilience all matter. You thought we were down for the count, didn't you, colonizer? You thought we wouldn't return to mother. You thought mother wouldn't remember us. You thought rape and chains and rope and home wrecking would break us. It did break our hearts, but never came close to breaking our spirits. You launched every evil your puny, sick minds could imagine, and we just kept multiplying in number, multiplying in faith, and multiplying in resolve. Didn't you know that you were dealing with kings and warriors when you stole us? Didn't you know you were in for a fight, colonizer? You walked us through the doors of no return, but guess what? We've returned. You bathed us in the slave river and merchandised us with branding irons and separated us from family and distributed us like wares. And guess what? Your brand has worn off, and we now determine our own future. You chained us like criminals and marched us like prisoners of war, and then stacked us in ships like cargo and sailed us far from home. And guess what? We've returned to mother on turbo wings and in business class seating. We nursed what would become America into statehood and into an international superpower, the same way we nursed your white babies on our black breasts, because we were strong, because we knew how, and because we were forced. And now you tell us to go back home if we don't like the way things are handled in America? Guess what? We were here standing on what would become American soil when America was birthed. And in all likelihood, we were standing on what would become American soil when most of you arrived. We were already speaking English when you arrived with foreign tongues. We've been here 400 years, since 1619. When did y'all arrive, colonizer? We're not strangers to America's shores. We're just estranged from her full benefits of citizenship. You've questioned whether black is beautiful. You've questioned whether black lives matter. You better ask somebody. You thought Africa was our shame? It was our pride, our strength. You should be so lucky to have been born in Africa. You've had your say for the past 400 years. Listen now to what we're about to say. The best is yet to come. Mother's children are reuniting. And do we need your permission or blessing? Colonizer, please. Aquaba, Welcome Home to Ghana by Alexander G. Hello, my sons and daughters, across the deep sea waters. Now don't you know the motherland is home? Your mother won't forget you, and one day God will let you return to me no matter where you roam. By Verlene G., my mother. I went home last week. I visited Ghana in West Africa. Mother hadn't forgotten me at all. Welcome home. You're in Africa. Enjoy it. Make yourself at home. Home humbled me. When I think of home, it isn't an address. Home isn't brick and mortar and living rooms and garages. Home is the portal through which you enter and then engage the world each day. And home is the portal through which you return to decompress from the atrocities of the world each day. Home is where you look at yourself in the mirror before taking on the day. And home is where you never second guess yourself. Home is where you never have to make excuses for yourself. Home is where you never dumb down. And home is where you are the majority and majority rules. Books live in libraries. Merchandise lives in stores. Groceries live in supermarkets. But our intact, non-apologetic, irrepressible, culturally ordained, hence our truest selves, come alive at home. Home is not merely where we live. Home is where we come alive. Home humbled me in Ghana because I didn't know I was so homeless. I was taught in school that Africa was ugly. I was shown only the atrocities and poverty of Africa. I was warned against the darkness of Africa. Mother Africa was so strong and so rich and so fertile and so ridden with potential that white explorers wanted to tame Mother and own Mother and prostitute Mother and reduce Mother. These evil white explorers and traders wreaked havoc on both sides of the Atlantic. White traders stopped wanting to trade with Mother Africa and decided to remove the middleman by colonizing Mother Africa and ravaging her shores and mines and trees and seeds and sons and daughters and kings and queens. Colonizers raped Mother Africa, her children, and her land. Motherfuckers. Those who survived the evil brutality of supposedly religious slave traders in Africa then had to endure the rigor of unimaginably inhumane conditions of the transatlantic slave ship and its crews. Then those who survived the evil voyage by avoiding sickness or the temptation of throwing themselves overboard to safety were then left to deal with the greedy, lustful white tyrants in the new land. These were white men and compliant white women who had purchased imported property, made in the image and likeness of God, mind you, to make them rich in cotton and free labor. Correction. Slavery didn't just make slave traders, slave ship captains, or slave owners rich. Slavery, correction. Hardworking black people made America rich and converted America into a world superpower. Because the strongest of the strongest Africans landed on the shores of the new colony. For the chance to become American, many white Europeans would deny their mother, their language, and their customs and their own culture. Being white would suffice if it meant access, superiority, and power in America. Mother Africa's children weren't so weak. We refused to deny our mother. The new land tyrants wanted nothing to do with the power of Mother Africa, so they attempted to stop her children's gibberish, separated her children further, pit Africans against Africans, and cast shame on the mother's sun-kissed skin. What they didn't know, because they could not understand, because they'd run away from their home. We were kidnapped from our home and sold into bondage. I don't know about Mrs. Europe. However, Mother Africa called to her children over the waters, in their dreams, in their songs, in their prayers, in their souls, and in their DNA. And because Mother Africa knew that it would be centuries before any of us would see her kind face or embrace her strong neck or kiss her warm, dark cheeks again, she clothed us with pride, a sense of family, faith, respect, and hard work. And she gave us a love for our Mother Africa that made Uncle Sam feel threatened. How can Sam be our uncle if he refused to own our mother as his sister? So their insecurities blossomed. Thus, they outlawed our languages, monitored our gatherings, sanctioned our religion, raped our women, dispirited our children, raped our children, belittled our songs, and owned our bodies, but never our minds and spirits. They couldn't break us because Mother Africa had put us together so fearfully and wonderfully, and they didn't understand us and were troubled by the fact that they couldn't break us. And believe me, those motherfuckers tried. And when it was unbearable, we told Mother Africa with our sighs and our tears and with our songs and with our drums. Her frantic heartbeat for her stolen children resonated on the drums of her sons and daughters as they played and danced into the dark sky. The songs Mother Africa had taught them. The syncopation of the rhythmic and mystically majestic drums conjured Mother Africa's spirit as if the thousands of miles across the sea and the thousands of leagues beneath the sea didn't stand between us. We loved Mother Africa, and she loved us, and that was adequate compensation for being so unloved in the New World. So 400 years to the month after we were snatched from her arms, Mother Africa, through her tribal leaders and keepers of culture, welcomed me and my family and 250 other African Americans home. Mother didn't just see her children. We saw our mother and our home. I didn't know that Mother had been looking for me to return because she could not come to where I was. Home humbled me. When I think of home, it isn't an address. Home isn't brick and mortar and living rooms and garages. Home is the portal through which you enter and engage the world each day. And home is the portal through which you return to decompress from the atrocities of the world each day. Home is where you look at yourself in the mirror before taking on the day. And home is where you never second guess yourself. Home is where you never have to make excuses for yourself. And home is where you never dumb down. Home is where you are the majority and the majority rules. Books live in libraries. Merchandise lives at stores. Groceries live in supermarkets. But our intact, non-apologetic, irrepressibly, culturally ordained, hence our truest selves, come alive at home. Home is where I can decompress from a lifetime of atrocities and unfair treatment so that I can engage the struggle with a renewed sense of self, power, and purpose. Home humbled me in Ghana because I didn't know I was so homeless. I went home last week and was reminded of who I am. I'm at home in my own skin wherever I go. Home is not merely where we live. Home is where we come alive. I want to thank Corey Sappho for creating the music for this podcast, my podcast manager, Tyler Nyland, engineer and editor, Eli Steenlich, my editor, Jeremy Holliday, and a special thank you to WORT Studios, where we record Black Like Me.
Ooh, Black Like Me.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast. You can find out more about Dr. Alex G's amazing work at www.alexg.com. Black Like Me is sponsored by the generosity of the Human Family Unity Foundation.